Well, let's start off with you, Donnie. I mean, NFL wise, want to change up team to bet on, team to fade?
Yeah, I mean, if you're just looking overall, team to bet on, team to fade, I think the one team that I'm looking forward to now to see what they actually have, to see what they're going forward with, it's clear something is amiss down in Miami. So if we're going to look at that, is Jay Cutler going to come back? Now you're saying this. You saw Matt Moore come out, and even I thought Matt Moore might be a little bit better option than Cutler. That's not the case. So now you're going to tell me, Mister, I'm going to take my paycheck, smoke some cigarettes, and now I have cracked ribs, how much I want to sell out for my football team here. I'm just waiting for the end of the season to get done. If I'm looking on a fade team right now, just a team in turmoil, I don't know where their locker room's at. I don't know which quarterback can even play anymore. You trade away your best running back, your wide receiver who looks like he wants to get out of town. You're telling him no matter what happens, you're not leaving here. Sounds like a desperate situation in Miami. I'll lean towards Miami right now as my fade on team in the NFL.
All right, Donnie. Well, what about you, big man? You agree with them, or you have a different team you want to throw out there?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with him, especially with Jay Ajayi leaving. Obviously, there's some, I think, issues with that coaching staff there. Adam Gase is looking a little bit like Chip Kelly, starting to just get rid of people he doesn't like. And, is Jarvis Landry, what's his motivation going forward? What's Cutler's motivation? But no, I'm actually going to go with a team that I was really high on coming into the season. I think a lot of us were really high on this team, and they've just been really bad. Not only winning, but against the spread. Tampa Bay, 1-5 ATS. They're only scoring 21 points a game, which I guess is okay. But I think we all thought this would be a high flying, up and down the field type of offense. Winston was coming into his own. It looked like they added Deshaun Jackson. Doug Martin comes back after the suspension, but they've been among the worst defensive teams in the league as well. On the road, they're giving up 34 points a game. 4 of their next 5 games are on the road. And now, and all year, they've battled injuries in their on their defense. Brent Grimes, Levante David, Quan Alexander have all been out. Brent Grimes is out right now. It's just been and they're coached poorly. Gabe has mentioned him and I have talked about Todd Monken, the play caller, Dirk Cutter, their coach. They're just not well coached, and I thought they could kind of get by with that, but they haven't. They've been very poor overall. They're a team that I think you got to look to fade for the next 5 on the road, and a lot of tough games coming up.
Yeah, and Ian, we just talked 2 teams, fade city. What about you? Anything to add to that?
I'm looking at the Washington Redskins as a fade. Everyone thinks this team's going to stick in the race here in the NFC East, but this is a banged up, beleaguered, injury-riddled, plagued football team that's coached mediocrity at best, I guess you could say, from Jay Gruden, from his perspective. Kirk Cousins, epitome of a mediocre quarterback, because I just don't see Kirk Cousins win the big game for you. Wenzel, he hasn't won any primetime games. We know the Monday night record stinks. The Thursday night football record stinks. And every weeknight and nighttime primetime big game record for Kirk Cousins is miserable. It's downright awful. So at some point, you got to ask yourself, is Kirk Cousins going to be able to win a big football game when it matters the most for me? And I haven't seen the evidence that points to that to this point in the season or in past seasons here for Kirk Cousins and this Redskins team. So when I look at Washington, you're going to have to play some big games down the stretch, win some big games. Your defense is in shambles a little bit. The Jonathan Allen injury, you're not getting as much of a pass rush anymore. They've been banged up in the secondary. Breeland and Norman have been in and out. The offensive line is just a complete mess, and it was going into last week against Dallas. 3 starting offensive linemen were out for that game. There's not a lot to like here for the Washington Redskins, and there's certainly not a lot to like when you're going to Seattle this weekend to take on the Seahawks, who big time upgraded their offensive line, getting Dwayne Brown left tackled. George Fant's been injured a lot this season. They were hoping he'd be that left tackle, and he's going to be a huge upgrade, Dwayne Brown. I know he's 32. People are going to say maybe a little bit on the downswing for him of his career, but he can't be anywhere. He's going to be a lot better than Reese Odiombo. I can tell you that right now at that left tackle spot. He was abysmal. He was largely awful for Seattle, manning that left tackle spot. So I think he's going to be an upgrade there, and Washington could be walking into a very, very tough spot against a tough foe. I know Seattle gave up points against Houston, but I think they're going to be looking to tighten it up defensively, and that O-line is going to take a big step forward with Dwayne Brown patrolling that left side, that blind side now for Russ Wilson.
All right, so we got 3 fade teams there in the NFL. Guys, feel free to chime in on the chat box what you want to hear. We got a bunch of guys in here, Mr. Satan, Rod Fig, Lou Skunt, Tomar, Mario Martinez. What's up, dudes? And Donnie, I see you in there. Best part about CR is the airport. What'd you like so much about that airport?
Love the gift. The gift shops were phenomenal at the airport. You know, my favorite story of the whole weekend is going back there, dropping like $75 on some frogs and some sunglasses and T-shirts for my daughter. Get on the plane, get off the plane. Don't bring the bag with me. Fantastic, man. So I make deposits all over the place out there.
Totally agree with Donnie's assessment. Costa Rica airport there in San Jose was nice, quick, in and out, no fuss, no muss. Whereas Miami was fresh hell trying to get in and out of that. That airport was a disgrace. Nobody knew what the fuck they were doing. They put me in the wrong direction 3 times. 3 different times. Nobody could tell me where to go the right way. And I got lost 3 times. Almost missed the flight back to Toronto. Good job, Miami. You got outclassed by San Jose Costa Rica airport. Good for you.
Ian, man, I grew up in South Florida. Everybody knows the rule. If you're flying through South Florida, go to Fort Lauderdale, not Miami, man.
I know. Well, that's where I was put. Miami. What can I do? Couldn't change it. Yeah.
All right, boys. Let's get into buy on teams. I want to push you guys to maybe have a buy on team that's a really buy low team, not maybe a team that's won 5 straight. What about a buy low opportunity in the NFL? Donnie, do you have one?
I mean, if you're looking at buy low, the one I don't even know how a buy low could have been. I was going to use the Houston Texans, a little bit popular team, but keep in mind they're only 3-4, so heading down the stretch, that offense is really good. Defense needs to get it together, but really impressed from Watson. But if we're trying to look on that low, grimy end to see who's going to be covering point spreads, not necessarily winning football games, I know this team is down in the dumps right now. I know they're banged up. I know they looked awful the last couple weeks with CJ Beathard at quarterback, but there's a little bit of help on the horizon. If Jimmy Garoppolo steps in, let's just say in 2 to 3 weeks, and they have that final 5-game stretch, you have a competent quarterback back there. Not to say we're going to win football games at all, but I think he's going to be able to manage and maneuver in that offense with Kyle Shanahan to maybe cover some point spreads heading down the stretch. So if we're going to look deep down, grimy, awful football teams, keep an eye on the 49ers if Garoppolo takes the helm there a little bit later in the season.
I like it. In the Texans, they're only 3-4, so that could count too, right?
Yeah, no, they're really good. I mean, Deshaun Watson is leaps and bounds better than ever I thought he would be, especially as a rookie. He does everything you want as a quarterback in the NFL. It doesn't matter if your offensive line breaks down, he gets out of the way. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's got speed at wide receiver so they can stretch the entire field. I'm really impressed with that offense, man. No question.
Yeah, good stuff, Donnie. What about you, big man? Any buy on team?
I was going to say San Francisco. I think next year, mark my words, they're going to be a playoff team next year. Mark my words. I really like them going forward. I said it last night with Donnie on his show. I like Garoppolo. I think they're in a good spot from a management perspective to get some of the pieces they need. They have a pretty good defense already. I mean, they have some pretty good names in that defensive group. They have John Lynch, who's done a nice job. And we've talked about the issues that Cleveland has that's on the same level, but they have no prospects going forward due to their inept management. It's pretty tough to find a really poor team just because, most of the teams are pretty competitive. Maybe Tennessee. I mean, they're 3-4 against the spread. I know they're doing good in their record, but they've been kind of down. Their defense has been poor. They still have plenty of playmakers. You're going to get Corey Davis back, and hopefully he can contribute here. But from the level of really poor teams, I would have said San Francisco just because of the addition of Garoppolo, but they don't have very many weapons. That's their problem. Is CJ Beathard that bad? Maybe, but they also don't have very many weapons. I don't think I knew any people in their receiving core other than Garcon. They just don't have much there. But I would have said San Francisco as a very buy low option. Okay,
49ers buy low option. What about you, Ian?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I think San Francisco can only be better with Jimmy G at quarterback, but the fact remains, though, the receiving weapons there are limited. The offensive line is still very much a concern. I mean, that's still going to have to be addressed. I think Jimmy Garoppolo probably better equipped, more experienced to handle deficiencies along the O-line, deficiencies at wide receiver, lack of depth, lack of overall talent at that position than obviously CJ Beathard is or Brian Hoyer was. So that's the good news. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo might be able to handle that a little better, but certainly it's an upgrade. I mean, it's just a question of can the parts around Jimmy Garoppolo function better as well, because that receiving core still a little limited and the offensive line a bit suspect as well. The team I'm looking at betting on, not necessarily long-term moving forward, but specifically because I'm looking more immediate future with these bet-on, bet-against team discussions. Detroit Lions, just because I don't think Green Bay has shown me anything so far with Hundley in terms of a downfield passing game. Not good at all whatsoever. You're supposed to be able to throw the ball and move it a little bit against New Orleans. He was not able to do that at home at Lambeau Field. Great situation and setup there. and it was just awful. He couldn't throw a ball accurately beyond 10 or 15 yards in that football game. It was terrible. Now, maybe you give him extra time in practice. I understand that to get better, but I just don't see it. And Detroit, don't be fooled by the loss against Pittsburgh on Sunday night. That team moved the ball up and down the field against the Steelers and kept shitting the bed in the red zone over and over and over and over again in that football game. They could have punched in 4 or 5 touchdowns, to be honest with you, but couldn't and didn't. If they turn a few of those red zone opportunities into touchdowns instead of turning it over and settling for field goals against a Green Bay defense that you should be able to have some success against, this is not a lockdown Packer D. Detroit should have more offensive success Monday night when they head to the frozen tundra.
All right, good stuff, Ian. Guys, let's break down a game in the NFL. But first, thank you for tuning in, guys. We got over 100 live watchers on YouTube alone right now. Please give us a thumbs up if you like the content we're putting out. It helps us out a lot. Also wanted to mention we're doing Breeders' Cup action this weekend. The Breeders' Cup, big horse racing stuff. Jimmy the Bag, Matty Ice doing a bunch of stuff there. And yeah, let's get right into breaking this game down. We got a AFC East matchup, Buffalo versus New York Jets. Looks like Buffalo won 2 straight, depending on the number you got, possibly 2 straight ATS. Going against the New York Jets, dropped 3 straight games. So Buffalo making the short trip to New York. Looks like they're laying 3, possibly 3 in the hook. Most 3 in the hooks are gone, but -3 pretty much across the board right now. Who wants to lead us off? Big man, you want to start us off on this breakdown?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Jets all of a sudden have lost 3 in a row, played pretty well for a couple weeks, but they face some tough opponents here. This line doesn't. This line's kind of surprising to me. It looks kind of shaky. I mean, the lines actually went down a little bit as well, which, I mean, it looks like a stone cold Jet line. But I'm actually going to look towards the total here. I know Thursday night games aren't particularly high scoring generally, but I mean, I look at this game and I ask myself, I mean, do I think the Bills can move the ball? Sure. I mean, the Jets are one of the worst pass defenses in the league. They also can't stop the run either. So I think the Jets should have, or Bills should have some success moving the ball. They have Kelvin Benjamin. How much he'll be involved, I don't know, but it's just another player in there. And I know Buffalo's been lauded all year on their defense, and I'm not going to take anything away from them, but the truth of the matter is they've had trouble against the pass. They're 24th overall. They have given up some big plays, and they've given up a couple 300-yard passing games lately. I just think 43 is a little too low. Also, you look at Buffalo, E.J. Gaines, Jordan Poyer might be out in this game. That's some secondary players you're not going to have possibly here. I just think 43 is a little too low. Other than weather getting involved, I don't see either of these teams having much trouble moving the ball. Do I think the Jets are going to score 30? No, but I think they could put up 14, 17 points. And I think Buffalo will put up 20, 26, something like that. I think this game will get up and over 43.
Donnie, you agree with him?
It should be an interesting one because Jeremy Curley going out on suspension now certainly not going to help the Jets offense. But if you look away over on the Jets and the way the Buffalo Bills are playing, both are playing really good football each and every game. If you take a look at the Jets, I mean, they beat Jacksonville, which is no small feat at this point. They beat them at home, obviously beating Cleveland, which everybody does in the NFL every single year. I don't give that much credit, even though it was on the road. So technically a Jets win on the road is kind of impressive. New England, they lose 24-17. Or you can argue they should have won that football game, had a double-digit lead early, got shafted a little bit on one of the calls to the Austin Seferian-Jenkins that he fumbled out of the back of the end zone, which was, pretty crazy to me. Also with the Miami game, up 14 points on the road, ended up losing that football game. And then the same thing with the Atlanta Falcons having a lead in that game in a monsoon rainstorm, that one. But the thing I'm worried about for the New York Jets is, or how banged up are they coming in tonight? Maybe if Morris Claiborne might miss the game on Thursday. You're looking, Buster Screen already bringing out Jeremy Curley suspended. We'll see if Muhammad Wilkerson is able to come back and play effectively in that game. But, it's a home team. It's a Thursday night game. It's going to be a slug out. Both these teams know each other well. Might be leaning towards the points at +3 right now. How well Buffalo played at home versus the Oakland Raiders, no slouch there. We're able to beat Tampa Bay, beat Denver at home as well. But going on the road, a little bit different. Yes, they did beat Atlanta in Atlanta, but if we go back to that football game, down Sanu and also Julio Jones by halftime in that. But again, you still have to go out and win the football game. They did that. I look for a slugfest in this game, and I do think that they will keep it close. I'll lean towards the Jets in this one as a home dog.
At Babano, you like the home dog as well?
It's a tough game. -3 is just the perfect number, I think. I'm probably not going to be involved from a side perspective. I don't mind the opinion of Jeff on the over. I will say this. This is something to file away for future reference. I cashed a ticket with the over in Oakland, Buffalo last Sunday. It just got up and over at the end, close down the stretch with that late touchdown. But Buffalo is 12-1 to the over in 13 home games since the start of last season. 12-1. That is a under the radar totals trend that is flying way under the radar. Nobody paying any attention to it. And it's reasonable to see why. Tyrod Taylor and that Bills offense, a little more comfortable. They're a little more explosive. They air it out a little bit more. They're a little more aggressive. They take a few more shots down the field. When they play at home, they don't typically, they'll play.
What's up, guys? Doing a little live roundtable.
Yeah, they pretty much play that way. I don't know what that was, but
sorry about that.
What the hell was that?
That was Drew talking on his cell phone while we're trying to do a damn show, I think.
I was trying to do a caption of you talking as well. So sorry about that.
I'm kidding with you. But yeah, I mean, Buffalo to me is not quite the over team on the road that they are at home, but this offense is showing signs of putting some things together. And I think Josh McCown, of all things, is, playing a lot better at the quarterback spot than a lot of people thought. So there is the chance, I think, to maybe see some points. I think from a totals perspective overall right now, Buffalo's a little bit devalued, especially with these secondary injuries. Let's not forget, Big Man mentioned it. Poyer didn't play on Sunday against Oakland. Neither did Gaines. And neither of those guys are a sure thing to be back. That could open the door for McCown to Robbie Anderson, who's become quite the little quarterback to wide receiver combination lately for the New York Jets, to maybe make some plays against that Bills secondary, because I've watched this team. That pass defense ain't as good with those two guys on the field, and it could without those two guys on the field, and it could make a difference if they don't suit up Thursday night.
Yeah, two other things I just wanted to mention off of Ian, what Ian said. I can't believe Robbie Anderson's in the NFL. In college at Temple, I mean, we watched him a lot. I didn't know that I saw an NFL player, but he's actually been pretty decent in the NFL. One other thing on the over trends, Ian mentioned the road or the home stuff for Buffalo. Also as a favorite over the last 18 games as a favorite, 14 of 18 have gone over the total. So it tells me they're normally dominating teams, putting points on the board, but the line screams Jets here at home. I mean, Donnie, you read the line. I mean, that's a stone cold Jet line.
And the line really well at home. I mean, the Jets have played everybody extremely tough at home. So I mean, and they beat some good football teams and should have beat New England at home, and actually should have beaten Atlanta home. But some prior things come in. They're a pretty good closing team, and I think that line closed at 6.5 on Sunday, so they got the cover there as well. You're looking for Buffalo probably to win by 7 on the road. Which can they do it? Yeah, I like Buffalo. I think they play a really good team, but Buffalo's that type of team I like in that home environment. 2.5, 3-point spread. Going out on the road a little bit different here. I think the Jets can play them tough, and again, both of these teams know each other really well, so we'll see what happens.
I like Buffalo more than the Jets, but I don't want to lay 3 on the road with them in this spot. You're off 2 big home wins, Tampa and Oakland. Now you're going on the road, short week, maybe a little banged up in the secondary. This is not the week I want Buffalo. I just don't. Sorry, Gabe. Sorry.
All right, so sounds like in agreement. Home dog Thursday night from the Roundtable crew.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.